This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
We have broken down the weird props. We have broken down the traditional player props. We have broken down the matchups for Chiefs versus Eagles. It is time to break down the thing that matters most. Who's going to win the dang game? To talk about that for today, we got Ryan Williams on to break down his thoughts on Super Bowl 57, breaking down the key matchups here, where he's looking at the spread, total, and money line, and getting you set, wrapping things up for our coverage for Sunday's game. This is Covering the Spread right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, joined here as mentioned by Ryan Williams. Check him out on Twitter at RyanAlexander_W. Ryan, it is a pleasure to have you back on the show for today. We're talking Super Bowl. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great, Jim. It's a pleasure to be back here in the seat with you. Can't believe that, and I say this every week, but I can't believe we made it, and this is it. This is the plateau. This is what we've all been waiting for, and I'm excited to get this game going, man. You know, we got the Philadelphia Eagles who've been rolling all year, Chiefs back for the third time in 4 years. So this should be an exciting one, and I can't wait for it to start. I wish it was tomorrow.
Me too. I wish it was tomorrow, but I also wish it were like 6 weeks away because it didn't really hit me till like this morning. I was like, oh, because we recorded earlier in the morning and I was like, oh, I wanted to record it at 8 o'clock Eastern anymore, but I won't get to talk to Ryan anymore. And it was I got sad, man. It was weird. I wasn't expecting that because it didn't hit me, I guess, really that because you're kind of rushing all year long. And all of a sudden it hits you oh, it's almost done. And I'm like, I don't want it to be done yet.
I know, man. What a fun year, man, for 2022. Yeah. And shout out to all those who were following along with our hits, or with my hits, I should say, on Covering the Spread, because you hold it down all the time religiously. But it was a fun year. It kind of weird in the middle of it, I felt like. But, once me and you got into a groove, I felt like we were definitely hitting on some things, and postseason time, it's definitely been a fun one. So we're looking to just keep that going, man.
I hope we can. We're going to break down Ryan's read on the traditional markets in this game. We'll also talk to him about some props if he has something he wants to share there too, because we can't waste Ryan's knowledge in that regard. We'll talk about all that here in just 1 second. But as mentioned, we have our other podcast for this game already up on the Covering the Spread podcast feed. Our guests, Joe Ostrowski, JJ Zachariason, Pamela Maldonado, all right here, breaking down their knowledge on this game. Ryan knows Joe. Joe was more than generous, giving out his knowledge around anthem stuff, halftime stuff that I can't comprehend, but Joe can somehow. That was up on Monday. JJ talking player props Tuesday. Pamela talking matchups on Wednesday. All of those are posted both on the Covering the Spread podcast feed and on the FanDuel YouTube page. So search for those wherever you want to listen. Make sure you hit subscribe. And if you like what you hear, leave us a rating and review as well. Get a piece of $10 million in bonus bets with FanDuel's Kick of Destiny. All you have to do is bet $5 on Super Bowl 57. And if Gronk kicks a field goal live during the game, you'll get a piece of $10 million in bonus bets. It doesn't matter if you're new to FanDuel or already have an account. Gronk kick, you win. It's as simple as that. So don't miss out on the Kick of Destiny on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Make every moment more. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 plus in select states. Minimum $5 wager required. Award may vary. Minimum $5. Projected max $20. Bonus award issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. All participants are eligible for bonus award. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. In Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In Connecticut, 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In Indiana, 1-800-9-WIN-IT. In Kansas and Wyoming, 1-800-522-4700, or in Kansas, ksgamblinghelp.com. Louisiana, 1-877-770-STOP. In Maryland, mdgamblinghelp.org. In West Virginia, 1-800-gambler.net. And in New York, 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Now let's dig in here to this game, Ryan, and talk about the matchups here, beginning with the Chiefs offense facing off with the Eagles defense. When we have the Chiefs offense on the field, How do you see things playing out there?
Yeah, so I mean, when the Chiefs offense is on the field, I mean, we love that there's a bye, right? So that's first and foremost. It will be interesting. Mahomes, Kelsey, we know that's foregone conclusion, right? MVS showing out in the playoffs is something that Packers fans probably hate to see, but he's just been the next
or
guy.
Or people who used him in DFS during the regular season as well. So, you know, specifically weeks 1 to 5. I eventually learned my lesson, but it was weeks 1 to 5 it was painful.
Yeah, which is incredible to just even think about, right? When we're talking about the free agents that they bring in, and Juju is supposed to be the guy, and he just hasn't been able to stay healthy and hasn't been able to get going. They bring in Kadarius Toney, and he gets the ankle injury in the divisional round, excuse me. So I do think that we should expect to see a high-powered offense. I mean, the week of rest for Patrick Mahomes' ankle, definitely love that. And I think that they know that they have one path of winning this game, and that's probably through Patrick Mahomes. They need him to go out there and score points. Philly is most likely going to try and run the ball to keep him off the field. I know people hate that terminology and saying that, but that's Philly's best chance to win, I feel. And they've been able to establish the run through this easy quote unquote run that they've had to get to the Super Bowl. So I do like the Chiefs to be able to, you know, be high powered, Mahomes to be able to sling it there. I think that they're definitely Andy Reid's working in the lab to game plan some things going. And this offensive line for the Chiefs is definitely going to have to hold up. This front seven for the Eagles is no joke, has not been a joke all year. They need to know where Hassan Reddick is at all time. That does concern me a little bit, Jim, but I do think that Andy Reid, probably in a similar way with the Bengals, right, is just trying to get Patrick Mahomes, keep stuff close to the line of scrimmage, and try and keep the Eagles on their heels so that they can open up a deep ball to Kelsey or to MVS. So that's kind of my read on it. But I do think that the Chiefs' best way to success is going to be passing the ball. I know people have talked about Isaiah Pacheco a lot this week. I am curious to see how they utilize the backfield with Clyde Edwards-Helaire being activated. So we are thinking of some type of a three-headed monster. I know McKinnon's kind of been priced out, but this actually feels like, in a weird way, Jim, a better way to get McKinnon going, right? With the front seven's going to be coming and getting pressure on Patrick Mahomes. Like, why not just have two backs out there in Pacheco and McKinnon and be able to, dump it off to them? I know McKinnon hasn't shown much in the playoffs so far as of yet, but what he was doing kind of leading up to that point and in the regular season and earning that trust, I think that, in the big lights, he might be one that they try and lean on more in this game.
Yeah, JJ mentioned he liked McKinnon's receiving yardage over, so he's on the same page there. I'm on Pacheco to win MVP, so we'll see about that. Might be a bit ambitious, but the thing that you mentioned that I wanted to go back to was the bye week, because when I talked about this game initially back on the Monday after the conference championship, I was operating under the assumption that I thought that one of Juju and Toney would play, and I was projecting this game as if one of them would likely play. I thought Hardman was done. I didn't think he'd play, but I thought that one of them might play, and I wanted to leave open the chance that neither of them would play. So when I put in my numbers, it was kind of assuming that they're getting Justin Watson back, but potentially without the other guys. And you look at the practice report from Wednesday, Kadarius Toney was limited, so that's not fully back yet, but that's better than it was. He practiced on Monday and Tuesday as well, and Juju Smith-Schuster was full. I think that's a key because Juju, before the conference championship, popped up as being limited on Friday with a knee injury. And he wasn't questionable like Travis Kelce was, but he was banged up. And seeing a full practice here ups my faith in the Chiefs offense. And as a result, I actually lowered the decrease I have on the Chiefs offense. I slow them lower than what they have been for the full season. I have a downward adjustment in there for them, but it's not as big as it was initially. So I went in there and made that change as a result of this health. Ryan, where are you on the Chiefs' health? Do you feel good about them in the sense that you're treating them as being kind of their usual selves? Slight downgrade? Where are you when you consider the health of Mahomes, Juju, Toney, etc.?
Yeah, I'm really not concerned
Mhm.
when we talk about the names that you're referring to, Jim.
Right.
The biggest things for me were Willie Gay
Mhm.
being out there because of how Philadelphia plays.
Right.
Full practice, love to see that. L'Jarius Sneed, who was talked about at nauseam, is not even on the report.
Right.
So getting him back is going to be huge. And when we talk about these guys, Tony, McKinnon, Juju, sure, they might mean something to the
Right.
offense because
Right.
that means we're not seeing the likes of, Jody Fortson and Justin Watson and things of that nature. But what they did last week or 2 weeks ago, excuse me, against the Bengals should show you that as long as you have the quarterback and you have the quarterback's best weapon, then and a running back who we can rely on, everything else is just kind of follow suit. That's what the Chiefs have done. That's kind of the regime that they have built. And that's why they were okay with getting rid of Tyreek. It's like we can do plug and play outside of our quarterback and our tight end, and we'll figure it out with the team, which is really impressive. But for me, that's kind of what it speaks like. If we wouldn't have been able to see the Bengals game into
Right.
fruition, and we were just talking about this being the first time, I'd be a lot more concerned. But knowing that we did have that in the conference championship, I don't see why we are concerned with the names on this list from the offensive side.
Right. It's that they've already shown they can do it, and the fact that they've had 2 weeks to game plan around the guys who are missing. I think that those are both keys here. Okay, let's shift focus here and talk about the Eagles offense against the Chiefs defense. It's a bit of a mismatch for sure with this Eagles rush offense against this Chiefs rush defense. So how do you see things playing out when the Eagles are on the field?
Yeah, the Eagles' best path, as I said, is on the ground, and that's no surprise. Everybody would say that, right, Jim? Like you're going to get Miles Sanders hopefully involved. Have some bets on his over rushing props. I think I got it at 13.5. Not sure where it is at now. I haven't checked in a while.
It's 13.5, but I think like plus 102 on the over last
Okay.
time I checked.
Yeah,
I'll check that for you. Yeah.
14 was kind of my number, so getting it at 13.5 seemed fair. I do think that Kenneth Gainwell is going to be immensely involved here. His rushing and receiving prop is under 50. Let's just take that for what it is because he's been able to hit that in 4 of the last 5. Not to get into the props model, but this is just where it lands, right? And so you're looking at Jalen Hurts, who was injured towards the end of the season. He comes back from week 18, and he's been pedestrian. When you look at his numbers now, you could say, well, he wasn't needed. It was a week 18. Then they get the bye, go into the divisional round. They handle business there. They go into the conference championship round. Hassan Reddick knocks out Brock Purdy, and they're able to handle business there. But I do think when you're looking at the other side and knowing that Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are on the other side, and we can expect them to score 3 touchdowns at an implied total just on a normal given day. Like if the run game for whatever reason isn't going, because we haven't been able to trust Philadelphia's run game all the time. Remember, it was Jalen Hurts who was carrying that load for them to start the season, which kind of plateaued him into the MVP conversation. So let's say that Miles Sanders just kind of is out there laying a duck or isn't able to get these yards, and then maybe we have to rely on Kenneth Gainwell more. But I am concerned about the passing game, all that to be said, because we have A.J. Brown, who's only got 7 catches in the postseason. I know Devonta Smith was kind of showing out, but he had 1 catch there against the Giants, which shouldn't really, or maybe it was the 49ers.
Yeah, it was a Niners game. It was a catch.
That wasn't a catch. So, and Hurts hasn't been needed in that capacity. So that's what concerns me about the Eagles. And I love Jalen Hurts, and I'm hoping that this is a great game. I've loved the over in this game because of what the two offenses mean. But that's the concern with Philly is there's probably one path for them that we know for sure they want to do in order to get to the Super Bowl. And if that gets derailed in any way and they have to get away from that, then I don't trust the identity of the offense there. So that's what's huge. From the Chiefs defense side, just really quickly, like I said, the health was the big thing. So knowing that they get Willie Gay back, knowing that L'Jarius Sneed is back, and the way the Chiefs play aggressively, right? So like on the run, they might just give up yards there. But I think from the passing standpoint, the way that they play aggressive, they could force Jalen into a turnover or 2. And that's what really could make it interesting if they can get Patrick Mahomes back the ball on a short field and be able to set this game apart.
Yeah, I think it's important to clarify that, like, we're saying we haven't seen it yet from the Eagles in terms of can they make up ground if they fall behind. it's not that they can't. We're not saying that. We're saying we haven't seen it yet because they haven't had to, because they've been so good. Across the entire year, talked about this with Pamela yesterday, but in the entire year, postseason and regular season, Jalen Hurts has 22 pass attempts while trailing in the second half, the entire year. Gardner Minshew has 31, which like tells you that A, Jalen Hurts is a lot better than Gardner Minshew because he was not showing as often, but B, we haven't seen that. That does not mean that they can't do it. I think that if you gave me Jalen Hurts with no shoulder injury, I'd have more confidence in the Eagles' ability to make up ground. I'm not there yet right now, and it's in part because like the shoulder injury is there from that Bears game, but then also in that 49ers game, he looked a little banged up again. I'm not sure if I was like misseeing that, but like when he ran that sneak in for the touchdown, he didn't look fully healthy. Now, maybe the 2 weeks have made that better, but I don't know. Did you get the same vibe that I did where it's kind of like, I'm not totally convinced that he's 100% right now?
Yeah, well, look at the other side of the spectrum, Jim. I mean, he's going against guys, Greenlaw and Bosa and the rest of those guys on the 49ers defense. I mean, they did their best to try and keep Josh Johnson and the 49ers offense in that game, which is also the concerning part too when you're talking about the Eagles offense, right? It's as soon as Brock Purdy went down, Eagles should be up by 2 scores minimum. That's just how they should have been able to work it in. It was close there for a little bit of time till we got to the third quarter, and they were finally able to get things going and separate themselves. But this Chiefs D by no means is like the 49ers as far as talent goes, but I do think that they have pieces when you talk about Chris Jones and others on that front line and the secondary that could go out there and really make things, miserable. I think they can scheme up some exotic blitzes and things of that nature if they are getting to points where they have to force Philly to throw. I think that's going to be the biggest thing is how can we get Jalen Hurts to have to win this game for this team? And that's probably going to be the MO for the Chiefs.
Right. We haven't seen it yet. Make them show it to us. Make them prove that they can do that. That's kind of the goal for the Chiefs for sure. Okay, we talked about the Chiefs offense and the Eagles offense. Let's spin that forward now and break down the traditional markets in this game. Right now at FanDuel Sportsbook, the Eagles are 1.5-point favorites. Their money line is -122. Chiefs are at +104. Ryan, when you look at those two markets, spread and money line, any value for you right now?
Yeah, I just look at the Chiefs getting as an underdog. So this is actually the first official time that Patrick Mahomes will have been an underdog in the postseason in his career. You're looking at Andy Reid, his record off of the bye is absolutely incredible. So when we're talking about a game that has and I just look at the total, right? If Vegas is saying that 50.5 points are expected to be scored in this game, and we know the Eagles' path to success is to run the ball and to kind of keep that going there, then if we get into a shootout by any means, like I'm just going to take the Chiefs side of value there, open at 2.5, now at 1.5, which seems right when you're all things considered, when you're talking about the dynamic of these two teams. But I do think experience plays a little bit of a factor here. You got guys like Jason Kelsey and Brandon Graham. I think there's a couple others on the Philadelphia side who could be hoisting their second Lombardi. But when we talk about the experience in the important positions, right, with the best player on offense, two of the best players on offense for the Chiefs, the head coach, like have been there before. I do think experience is going to reign supreme for the Kansas City Chiefs. And if they are getting plus money on them, I want to get that action every time.
Yeah, the money line is +104. I think that if you are interested in the Chiefs, which I also am, obviously, as discussed last week, money line is +104. The spread is -110, and you're getting +1.5, which basically means the only spot where you win that bet without winning the money line is that they lose by 1. So to me, Ryan, I feel like you take the money line here every time versus the spread, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I had the Chiefs I got them at 108 or 110, depending on where you got it from last Monday. And I talked before about how I've adjusted my numbers again to account for the fact that Juju's healthier, Tony might play and stuff like that. So it's an upward adjustment for the Eagles or the Chiefs. And once I do that, my better model has the Chiefs as 1.89 point favorites. So pretty heavily favored in this game. Win odds associated with that are higher than, 49%, obviously. So I think the money line is still the right way to go, and there's still value there. I would say I would not be shocked if we see some more public money come in on the Chiefs here this weekend. So if you want to bet the Chiefs, do it now. I think we could see that change. Now, maybe I'm misreading that. Maybe it comes in on the Eagles instead. I don't know. It's been pretty steady, but with the Super Bowl, you see a lot of money come in late in the week, over the weekend and stuff like that. So we could see this market move again. Personally, I'd rather take it now because I think it's a very good value. And if it moves against me and I misread that, oh, well, so be it. That happens. But I would be taking that now, taking that money line, going with the Chiefs. I just think that they're the better team. And this is not like a shot down at the Eagles. Like the Chiefs are historically good based on my numbers. The Eagles, best team in the NFC by my numbers after that 49ers game. They earned this. Sure, you can talk about the schedule, which is justified. If Hurts were fully healthy, maybe it's a different story where I'm maybe less high on the Chiefs, but I think it's not a downward shot at the Eagles say that I love the Chiefs. It's just respect for how insane they've been this year and what they've done. Now the total is 50.5. You said you have interest here in the over at that number. What pushes you that direction, Ryan?
Well, the only reason I have interest in that number, Jim, is because I do like the Chiefs side of things, and close game kind of probably favors the Eagles. I would say probably not at the tune of 50.5, but if we were looking at like a 47-ish, 48 number, I think that would definitely favor in the Eagles fashion. But yes, if points are going to be scored here and in bunches, I'm taking the Chiefs. I'm willing to say that, if it gets to a shootout point, the Chiefs are probably winning that game. And that's where I could see it. I think most people would say if Jalen Hurts has to go out there and throw for 250 and 2 or something to the tune of that, and the run game's not going, then it's probably because they're playing from behind and the Chiefs are, rolling on all cylinders. So that's where I come in on the total there.
Would you have interest in tying those together? If you put the Chiefs money line at plus 104 with over 50.5 at minus 115 and do a same game parlay on those, you get plus 252 at FanDuel Sportsbook. I think that's fair, given that I like the money line. Personally, I think I would go just the money line by myself rather than tying the two together. But what would you do here, Ryan? Would you want to do each bet individually? Do you want to parlay them together? How are you handling that if you like both those bets individually?
Yeah, I was going to see here real quickly. You might have more access to it than I do, but I would probably at that point, just because of the odds, would look at an alt spread for Kansas City.
Sure.
So if you go and flip it, where it's, you think the Chiefs win by the last second field goal or whatever. So you take the Chiefs minus 2.5 or minus 3 with the total at 50.5. That's probably going to be your best bet, where you can get more favorable odds, probably closer to the 4-1, 5-1 range.
So let's check out, let's go Chiefs minus 2.5. We don't want to give up the field goal there. That's plus 116 instead of getting it where plus 116 versus the money line at plus 104. So you're getting a little bit better odds there. And then with the over at 150 or at 50.5, if we do those together, 263, not a huge difference.
No, I'm surprised it's at 160. I mean, and that just goes to show you how Vegas is pricing it right, because that's
they know.
Right, exactly. That's what so these are what people are going to be thinking about doing to get it in their favor. So no, that's fair. Yeah, that's kind of one of those things you probably don't want to take them together. You just take them separate and hope that the one city, and if it is the under, then so be it. But that would be the only, I think, from a personal standpoint in my mind, mind versus heart. Like I just would love to see points scored in this game, because we have had a couple duds over the past couple of years. So we deserve it, Jim. We deserve it.
We deserve this. As far as what my numbers say with this one, I talked about this last week, but when I run my numbers with no injury adjustment for the Chiefs, I had the total of 51.5, so above this, but the injury adjustments the first round had a 40.9 or 49.97. So that said, when it was at 49.5, so that was about right. And I couldn't get to an over here, but I did adjust them back up again with Tony and Smith-Schuster practicing. It's at 50.38 for me right now, so very fair. 51 is a massive key number, though. So if you get this, if this number hits 51 at FanDuel, that's where I'm like, no, I'm not touching that. I think that 50.5 totally fair. 51 is a really big number. So with it still being under that, it is minus 115 in the over. I think that there is still room to go there if you want to, but if it gets to 51, that's where to me becomes a true stay away if it does get there. Okay, now while we got you, Ryan, let's talk about some other props. If you got any, you talked a bit about Miles Sanders, his rushing prop. That rushing prop, the attempt prop, over 13.5 is plus 102 right now. Is that one that you like? Any other props you're looking at for this game?
Yeah, that's a fun prop. I think I actually have a future on Kelsey to win MVP.
Oh, okay.
I believe at 28. Yeah, because it's been 16, right? So yeah, I think it's at 28 to 1 is what I got it at. Even at 16, I think that's interesting. I think what's really even more crazy when you think about it is the path of Kelsey to win MVP, right? So we're definitely about multiple scores, which 2 touchdowns for him is plus 460 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. When you get into 3 touchdowns for him, though, now we're cooking with gas. So Kelsey to score 3 touchdowns and to go, if you go the alt line with him hitting 100 yards, because that's just what you're thinking. Kelsey just absolutely gets all the production, dominates the game based on what the injury report is saying for the Kansas City Chiefs, or even if those guys are somewhat healthy, the path to success is going to be with Kelsey. That gets you at 50, around 52 on that number, which is absolutely incredible. So that's one that I was kind of playing around with. Not only you get the MVP there at 16 to 1, but when you parlay that, you see it there, probably 10 to 1 there with the 2 touchdowns and the alternate line. But when you get the 3 touchdowns, then it even skyrockets even more. So that's a fun one that I was looking at. And, you just try and talk yourselves into paths, right? I think that the quarterbacks both being at plus 130 is fair. I'd more be willing to take that with Mahomes. And I know this has been talked about a couple of different places, but I do think that the Jalen Hurts at plus 130 does feel kind of trappy because there are, like, you could probably see a Hassan Reddick like at 34 to 1, right? You could probably talk yourself into Miles Sanders at 25 to 1 if he has a similar game to when he's going 102 off the rip, and Jalen Hurts is kind of having a pedestrian game as like we've seen the past couple. They just don't need him to win. So that's one that I'm kind of staying away from. I did talk about Gainwell rushing and receiving. He said on that 4 out of 5 games where the number is right now. I do think Marquez Valdez-Scantling to score an anytime touchdown. It was plus 195 the last time I saw that. I do have interest in that. And then the other one that I'll quickly touch on, Jim, that isn't a player prop is Kansas City to be the first half winner is plus 102. And if you are taking the Chiefs, I think you might as well just go ahead and take this bet as well, because when the Eagles are up at half, they have been killing it all season long. That's why you mentioned the numbers with Jalen Hurts and not having to throw that much. So the path to success is that you're saying that Kansas City just really comes out here and tries to punch the Eagles in the mouth, and then the Eagles are playing catch up, which Jalen Hurts has not had to do most, if not all, this season. So I think taking the Kansas City Chiefs here at plus 102 has some value to it.
Yeah, I think that is smart, because it does give you just kind of an extra bit of safety if you want to put that back in second half. Don't chase losses, obviously, but if you want to have some more fun, you can do that as well. Plus 102, the number on that. Going back to the Gainwell one, the rushing plus receiving, I was in the wrong tab. There are like 16,000 tabs for Super Bowl, so I was in the wrong tab. But his rushing plus receiving is 32.5. I took his rushing number when it was 16.5 last week, I believe, or earlier this week. It's 19.5 now. I think if I'm betting him now, I would go this way. Like you said, 32.5 rushing plus receiving. I think that's a much better number than the rushing by itself. I think that's correct. And also, like, if you think about paths, we both like the Chiefs in this game. If the Chiefs get ahead, Gainwell is more likely to be on the field than Miles Sanders in that script. So I think that those bets actually do kind of correlate. They mesh well together. So I think that actually makes sense with the way we see the game playing out as well. So I do like that. Any dumb bets for you, Ryan? Any anthem, halftime, anything like that? Or are you being smarter with your money than
you know what
I'm
gonna miss what the line is, and I was just scrolling through last night as I usually do before I talk with Jim, just to make sure I'm not missing anything. The dumb bet I would say that I do like is the Gatorade color.
Yeah.
So lots of traction has been made on yellow because that's what they got Sirianni with, I think, on the way to the Super Bowl or earlier this season sometime. That's been floating around on social media. Orange because the Chiefs had that with Andy Reid the last time that they won. And then blue is usually always the favorite. Clear and water is plus 1,000. And I do think that there's some merit to that because we kind of, I just feel like maybe there's no Gatorade on the sideline. It's not the dumb one where you're saying none. I hate when people take none, but I do think there's some merit to like clear or water here being in Arizona. I don't know. It's just one of those dumb bets that I'm willing to take a chance on from the Gatorade color. So I do think that is fun.
What flavor is clear? Like what flavor is that?
Like Glacier Frost or
Glacier Frost. Okay, I've been out of the Gatorade game for too long.
Yeah, I'm just making up names.
Okay.
It's like what flavor of Capri Sun is that? Oh, I don't know. Pacific Surfer. They just throw.
I mean, that sounds right. That sounds 100% correct. Also, Capri Sun is better than not to scare away sponsors, but Capri Sun's better.
Exactly. If
we can get a Pedialyte on the sideline, maybe we'll do that instead.
That could be, yeah. So that's one that I was thinking of off the rip. The other one that I kind of tossed around with, I have not bet yet, and maybe I don't ever. But MVS to win Super Bowl MVP, if we do get some weird stuff happening, right? And you think about the game that he kind of had last week, when you're looking at him,
60-1.
60-1. Yes, thank you for bringing that up.
Chad Henne's 100.
Right. I mean, but that's like when you're looking, I mean, if we're just taking it from what it is and like what the offensive pieces are for the Chiefs, I understand where you're coming from Pacheco standpoint as well, too, because he could end up, hitting the rushing number and then maybe he catches a touchdown or two off a shovel pass from Mahomes. That's an interesting one. But like MVS, like he house calls one, on a deep ball, and then he's getting 100 yards and Kelsey doesn't find the end zone. And this is a low scoring game. Like the Chiefs won 17-14. And if MVS has the two scores there, it's so hard for you to really, it's so hard for me, I should say, to talk myself into a way that they are on that stage and Patrick Mahomes is not hoisting the Lombardi. Like it's just, Patriots win, Tampa Bay wins, like Tom Brady just is getting that trophy, regardless of what James White does or Edelman does or Chris Godwin does. So, but the only other merit I think is Kelsey, because so much of the offense can go through him. But that was another like stupid one where I was like, well, he could be like the second best receiver on this team. So why not at 60-1 take a shot? So,
I mean, we talk about it all the time with guys like this on the Monday shows we would do, but like you want to go with volatile wide receivers, you're more tempted by like the volatile markets than the stable ones. Like a yardage over under for MVS, I have no interest. I want to go with, you mentioned touchdown score, that's a volatile market. That's good. MVP, as volatile as it can be, that's great. 2+ touchdowns, stuff like that. Otherwise, stay away. I think that's a correct way to go. Maybe separate bets on the under the baseline yardage and then over 100 yards, whatever it may be. I think that he's the kind of wide receiver who fits that mold for sure. Anything else for you, Ryan?
Thank you for talking me into probably laying this bet. I appreciate
that. Which one are you more likely to do, the clear/water or MVS MVP? MVS MVP rolls off the tongue.
MVS MVP does roll off the tongue. I probably will lay the clear/water for sure, just so I have action in some market that does not relate to the actual game being played itself. But I also got to look at the Rihanna lines here for the songs too. Yeah, that's a fun one to get after. So I do want to make sure I partake in that.
I was talking with about those with Joe on Monday, and I went on like a Rihanna binge on Spotify after that. So it was actually beneficial for me. So I was, it helped. It made my Monday better. So there are lots of positives of talking about all this stuff. Even if I'm not going to bet it myself, I can at least benefit from listening to good music.
Sure.
Alrighty, Ryan. That's all we got here for today and this year, talking football. Wow. But I appreciate you swinging by throughout all this time, breaking stuff down with us. Maybe we'll get you on to talk some NFL draft at some point, maybe.
Absolutely.
But I'd be happy to have you on once again. But good luck to you, Super Bowl. Thanks for coming on this entire year. And have fun on Sunday. Yeah,
Jim, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure. Shout out to everybody who's been following along with CTS covering the spread. It's been a wild ride. So I appreciate you and good luck in the Super Bowl. Be smart with that money, but make sure this is the biggest betting day of the year. So if you're going to go crazy with some bets, this is the time to throw down on it. Enjoy that. And we'll see what the fun commercials bring while we're waiting at our Super Bowl parties and Super Bowl endeavors. So talk to you soon, Jim. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Go crazy responsibly. Hopefully Gronk makes that field goal and you can get some bonus money in there as well via FanDuel Sportsbook. Check out Ryan on Twitter at RyanAlexander_W. I'm on Twitter at Jim Sonis. Again, check out our other shows up on the Covering the Spread podcast feed and over on the FanDuel YouTube page. Tomorrow, John Rothstein will swing by. We're going to talk some college basketball, talk about the futures market, talk about who is actually the best team in the nation? Because I don't know. We'll get his read on some bubble teams and more coming up tomorrow right here on Covering the Spread. That's all we have for today, though. We'll talk to you then. This has been Covering the Spread right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network.